Hi everyone, my name is Alia Al Kheisha and I'm the Education USA advisor at the US Consulate in Dubai, the United Arab Emirates. So this is my first virtual session. I'm used to more having students at my center and me going to schools and talking to students. So I hope you're comfortable enough in asking as many questions as you feel that you need, and you can just type those up, and I'll say what questions you have, and hopefully I'll answer your questions. I'll handle the question and answer session towards the end because a lot of the frequently asked questions are some things that we cover throughout our presentation. So today we're gonna talk about undergraduate admissions and financial aid. And this is just an outline of some of the things that we're going to cover today. So if you're not familiar with Education USA, who we are, um, what we do, and how you can reach us, we'll cover that in a few minutes. In addition to why study in the US, what are some of the reasons that you or your family would like you to go study in the US, and to just maybe cover a few things that you might have not thought about. The difference between the US educational system and other educational systems. That's something that we're going to cover, and feel free to ask questions. I'll be able to answer more questions regarding the MENA region, um, for that in particular, differences between the US and the MENA region. Um, but I'll try my best to answer other questions as well. Um, we'll also cover choosing the right school and how to find the right fit for you as a student, because with Education USA, we believe in finding the right fit for you as a student, and the right university, a place that will make you happy and successful, and graduate on time. We'll also cover steps to successful admissions, and a major part of that is the application timeline, because again, the US educational system is pretty different than other places, so we need to start early. We'll also cover financial aid. I'll share some of the resources and the differences between different kinds of financial aid. So if you're not familiar with Education USA, I'll talk about that for a little bit. And I'm hoping that most of you are familiar with our centers. We are advising centers that give guidance and information about studying in the US. We are the only source of official information on higher education in the US. We are supported by the US Department of State. We're the Department of State's advising program for international students. So we realize that when a student is trying to study, figure out options, and trying to get information about studying in the US, you go online, and there are over 4,000 universities in the US, and it does get overwhelming. And it is difficult to narrow down your options and find the right fit and the right university for you. And that's why we're here. Our services are completely free of charge. We are located in over 170 countries, so we're most likely in your country. And you can just email or call an advisor to make an appointment and ask them questions. We give and provide accurate, comprehensive, and objective information about studying in the US. And sorry, I'm just getting some questions. So these, um, so what we when we give this information, it's completely free of charge, and most importantly, we're also objective. We believe in finding the right fit for you. So this is how you find a center in your country or in your region. You would go to our website, educationusa.info, and then on this page, you can find a center near you. So you would just click on the region or the country you're in, and you would select the region, and then you would select the country. Sometimes, like for example, in the UAE, we have two centers, one in Dubai and the other one is in Abu Dhabi. And people in Abu Dhabi might be actually watching us right now. I know there's a group of students in their center, so hello if you're watching. Other than that, you can just find the center, find the email of the advisor, the name of the advisor, our office working hours. We're located in different types of institutions. So for us in the UAE, we're located at the embassy and at the consulate. So for us, you would need to make an appointment. At other countries, you might be able to walk into the center without a previous appointment, and so on. So I would just recommend going to this web page and check out what kind of center is available in your country, their working hours, and if you would need an appointment. So why study in the US? This question may or may have not um, popped into your mind, and then sometimes people take this for granted and say, I just want to study in the US, but don't really go through or realize why. So these are some of the reasons why studying in the US is a right decision, if it's a right fit for you. The quality of US universities and US institutions are, of course, known worldwide for their quality of their facilities, their resources, the faculty, their absolutely everything is high quality. And the amount of money put in research in US institutions is astronomical. So a lot of research goes in, and you really are getting a high quality education in the US. The choice can sometimes be overwhelming. You have thousands of universities in the US. There are currently over 4,000 institutions. And that offer all sorts of degree programs, all sorts of different social life on campus. Um, each university has its own requirements and its own subjects, own majors that might be different. So you have a wide variety and a lot of choice. And we'll in a little bit we'll talk more about how to narrow down your options and your choices. The value for education, U.S. degrees offer great value for the money. And some universities do offer financial aid, so it is affordable for many. Um, and and there might be some ways with some universities where you can have some sort of financial aid to help pay for it. Flexibility is my favorite, and it's a great thing that we don't have in many countries. The US education system is very flexible in the sense where you can transfer from one institution to another. Um, you can transfer from one institution to the other. You can also change majors, which in some countries isn't that flexible. So you're not really stuck with whatever major you decide that you want to study. It is very flexible. You can change, and that's a great thing because maybe in your first year of school, you might realize that you're not interested in um, civil engineering, and that you took a couple of electives on, and some you're more exposed to information about marine biology, for example, and you realize that that's the thing that you want to do. You're really interested and passionate about marine biology, and you did not realize that that's what you wanted to do because you weren't exposed to that. So it's flexible in a way where you can change your majors, or have a major and a minor or a double major. Um, and it's also flexible in the sense where we see a lot of international students starting at a community college, because it may be a cheaper option, or some sort of a soft landing. So it's a smaller university, it's a small community, and then you can, sorry, and then you can transfer into a four-year university. So that's a bit about why study in the US. I mentioned community colleges, and I'm sure you've all heard um, words like, are you going to a private university, a public university, a state university, a community college? And sometimes you get them mixed up, and you're not sure where you're going or where you want to go. So I'll cover just a little bit about the differences between them, and what each one is. So when we say a community colleges are usually smaller. They are, just as the name implies, they are community based, and they usually offer 2-year associate degrees. Tuition is sometimes significantly lower than four-year institutions. And a lot of international students in particular would use community colleges um, as a soft landing, or as a way to transfer into four-year institutions. Um, because for international students, it's a very big change to go and live in the US. So I highly recommend starting out with community colleges, and looking into the different options with community colleges, because they usually have articulation agreements or transfer agreements with the four-year institutions. So you can start at a community college, um, settle in, find your way around, and have that transition, and then transfer to a four-year institution. Another thing, so that's for community colleges. Public universities, or sometimes people would say state universities, are, again, what the name implies. They're usually they're subsidized by state taxpayers, so the priority goes to residents of that state. And they are lower, they cost less for residents of that particular state. A lot of questions come up where, um, how long do I need to live in a state to have in-state tuition, and why do I have to pay out-of-state tuition? Um, so people would pay in-state tuition if they're residents of that state, and each state has their own requirements on how to achieve residency, or how to become a resident of that state to pay in-state tuition. And public universities are usually larger in general, although some private schools are pretty big, and they are pretty large. But in general, public universities are much bigger, and they are research institutions. Private universities, some of them might be smaller. And with private universities, the tuition is the same for everyone. They are funded by endowments, tuitions, grants, and gifts. Um, Sometimes you can find private universities focusing on particular disciplines or areas. Um, they are usually smaller. They may be religiously affiliated or single sex, so you can find women's colleges or men's colleges, um, and so on. I'm just gonna check if some of the questions are related to this. So we're getting how is the so how low can a student with an IELTS score get accepted into a U.S. university? So the thing about U.S. universities, our answers are usually going to start with it depends, it depends, it depends. So it really depends on the university. Each university has its own requirements, its own minimum scores. And if you're worried about your English or your test scores, then there are a lot of universities that offer conditional admissions, which means you can go and study English first, and then once you've got that settled and that good to go, you can start your program. So you always hear Education USA saying you need to find the right school for you. You need to find the right fit for you. You have so many options that it is overwhelming. I usually like to start by asking these questions to the students, and it would start to get them thinking. What type of university do you want to go to? Would you um, would you want to go to a public university or a private university? A big university or a small university? What kind of person are you? What's your personality like? Are you an introvert or an extrovert? Uh, do you work well in big cities or small cities? So all of this depends. So if you're in a huge university with classes that have a couple of hundred students per class, then that means you won't be and you're not comfortable in that setting, then you might want to consider a smaller university. Um, would you want to go to a liberal arts institution? Um, are you interested in a university that's traditional or progressive? So all of these questions will help you answer what kind of university you want to go to, and will narrow down your options as you're skimming through the hundreds of universities and chatting to the hundreds of universities today. So when we say liberal arts, I'll talk about that later on to kind of um, explain what liberal arts institutions mean and how they work. For the location, this is another big one. So sometimes students might not be very familiar with the US system and what type of university they want to go to. So I would encourage them to start by thinking of what geographic area you would like to live in, or maybe you visited the US before and would like to return to the state that you visited and feel comfortable in. Um, so that also helps narrow down your options. So by geographical area, um, the climate. A lot of students are not comfortable being in extremely cold weather or extremely hot weather. Some students are very focused on having outdoor activities, so would prefer some states over others or some cities over others. Um, some students would want to live on campus, and other students might have family or friends or would like to have their own place and commute. So answering these questions would help you filter and narrow down your options as you're using all the different resources in choosing a university for yourself, and would help you ask and find answers on the different university websites. So steps to successful admissions. You have a wide choice of schools, thousands of universities. You have hundreds and thousands of programs to choose from what you want to study. and you have no idea on how to start or when to start, for that matter. And this is where we come. We can help you figure how to start, when to start in all of these questions, and answer all your questions at Education USA centers all around the world. Um, you would need to start by understanding the requirements and the timeline. I'll cover the timeline in following slides, but for now, these are the most important and basic requirements that all or most of the universities are going to be asking for. So, of course, you're going to need a good GPA, and a GPA. All the students are usually going to ask, what's the GPA? What's the minimum GPA? My answer is also, the higher the better, and it depends. It depends on the university, it depends on the institution, and the higher the better. You would also need to take standardized tests. So you're probably familiar and heard of the TOEFL or IELTS, and those are English proficiency tests. So you would need to take one of them. No need to take both. Whichever you're more comfortable with, just take it. You can take practice tests on their websites, on the ets.org website and the IELTS.org website. You can find practice tests to see which test you're more comfortable with. And they basically just test your English. You would also be required to take that SAT or ACT. And those tests are, you can think of them as an entrance, a university entrance exam. You can take either one, you don't need to take both. And you can go to their websites, which is collegeboard.org or actstudent.org, and take practice tests, learn more about the tests, and take the one you're most comfortable with. You also need to check that you have adequate financing. So when selecting a university and looking at different university websites, you need to make sure that you have enough and sufficient money to pay for your education. You would also be required to send recommendation letters, or have the person that's writing recommendation letters for you to send those to the university directly. They usually ask for two recommendation letters. Transcripts are sent to the university directly through your high school, and they usually require all high school. So it's, in general, it's 9th grade, 10th grade, 11th grade, and of course your senior year. Essays are also required. It depends on the university. Some will ask for one or two, maybe three. It depends on the university. And essays, I would say, are one of the most important aspects of your application. And they do make the difference in getting accepted or denied. Of course, you're going to need to fill out an application form with all your information to send to the university. And one other thing that I'm going to cover is the common application. I'm seeing all your questions, and I will get to your questions and hopefully answer them as we go through the slides, because some of the questions you've asked we are going to cover throughout. So in general, the cost per year is different between each university. Each university has their own cost, and this is just a breakout of um, how how you would calculate. So if you see that a university tuition costs $15,000, it's not just that. You're going to need to add up personal expenses, room and board, travel to the US, books and supplies, health insurance, and those things add up. So that's the real number you would want to look at. when choosing a university. So the application timeline. This is very, very, very important, and students need to realize that the timeline for US universities is early. Uh, you would need to start in your junior year. So that would be the year before you graduate, to kind of prepare and start meeting universities, and doing all sorts of things. Um, Working earlier in improving your GPA, in doing extracurricular activities, and all of that is another thing. So we would recommend that students in their junior year, between March and May, start preparing and studying for the SATs or ACTs, in addition to their English proficiency tests, so TOEFL or IELTS, and see which tests they're more comfortable with, and really prepare for them, in addition to maintaining a high GPA. After that, in June or August, so just before you start your senior year, you would take your SATs and start researching college choices. A lot of countries have many US university representatives visiting their country, so I would encourage you to be in touch with your Education USA Center and find out when those universities are visiting and take the initiative and go meet them. If universities are not visiting your country, then through CollegeWeekLive, they regularly and always have someone you can chat to from different universities in the US and ask questions, in addition to Education USA advisors, of course. So just as your senior year begins and it starts to get really busy, you need to take your SAT 2s or take your SAT 1, or your ACTs and TOEFL. Make sure you get the highest grade possible, because this is it. You're going to need to apply soon. And then around this time, you need to have, in November of your senior year, you would need to have your applications ready, and everything that goes along with it, and which we just mentioned, which are um, transcripts, essay, application form, application fee, recommendation letters, and test results. Test results will need to be sent directly through the testing center, and like ETS themselves would need to send the test scores directly to the universities. So make sure that you know that. And you would just need to complete and send the application between November and December. So once you send out your applications, you can't just sit down and relax. You need to maintain your high GPA, and maintain uh, doing whatever you were doing before, because the universities are going to check that you're maintaining those grades, that you're doing all the extracurricular activities that you said you were doing. And then in March or April, so just around spring, you'll start to hear back from universities whether you've been accepted or denied. So once we'll step back a little bit and talk about researching your options and figuring out where you want to go, what type of university, what location works for you. We always recommend that you talk and discuss your options and recommendations with teachers, family members, other students, other friends, people that have lived in the US, people around you. Talk about it and ask questions. College fairs in your countries are a big thing. In the UAE, we have several fairs come in during fall and spring, and it's a great opportunity to meet with college representatives, ask them questions about their university, their state, and ask Education USA advisors. And then there are so many online resources and search engines that can really help narrow down your options, and filter your options in a sense where um, you can, it pretty much filters your choices to towards what information you're giving. So for example, you can type that you're interested in going to this state, and this is your budget, and this is the major that you want to study, and you want to go to a private institution, and then you would hit enter, and it would give you a list of only the institutions that are within your budget, that offer the major that you want to study, and that are in the location that you've specified. And that would make your life a lot easier and your research narrower. So these are some of the websites that we recommend that you visit. Um, and of course, um, they all have their different filters and their own way of working. So I would recommend that you visit them all and see which one works best for you. This is a great tip, and this is very useful. And once you have so many universities and so many options, this will make a lot of sense and will make your life a lot easier. A college worksheet that has the information. So let's say you have 20 universities that you're currently looking at. You would write down those universities in a spreadsheet and then have information about each one, like the address, the website, the cost, deadlines, the type of area, the climate, if they offer the major you're interested in, are they approved by your local Ministry of Higher Education, the number of international students, what their requirements are, what the average score is, and this spreadsheet will really um, will make your life easier and will help you narrow down your options, because once you look at all the different universities with all the data you just compiled, the school that may have been your first choice or the school that you thought was the best fit for you, after comparing it to all the other universities, might not be your number one. It may be your number three or your number five. Or just looking at all the different universities, you may have a different view of which university is best for you. So this worksheet is a great thing that you can do to help um, be organized. And once you look at it, once it's full, and you've research all the different universities, it will help narrow down your options. For accreditation, we highly recommend that you, once you have universities and once you're narrowing down your options, that you check US accreditation to make sure that the university is accredited. Um, um, this is the database for accreditation, and you can just go. It's very easy to use. You can go there and check U.S. university accreditation. And we also highly recommend that you check that your local government accredits the particular university and program. Some ministries of education may not um, approve some degrees or some universities. So we recommend that you also check with your local government that um, the universities that you choose to apply to are accredited and approved by them. As you're going through your worksheet and the 20, 30, 15 universities that you've selected, you would need to narrow them down to, let's say, maybe a minimum of 5, but I would say 5 to 8 universities, um, and have them in a certain criteria where what you're applying to these 7 universities and you're only applying to 7 universities out of the 4,000, which is a good number. But make sure that you don't go through the mistake of only applying to your dream schools. if you're only applying to the dream schools, the universities that are very competitive or highly selective, then for different reasons you might not get accepted. So you want to make sure that you do get accepted into a university in the US, and that your shortlist of school would have a mix of dream schools, realistic schools, and safety schools. So dream schools are the universities that you really want to go, and you think um, that it's pretty tough to get into and get accepted because you match the lower end of their successful applicants. So apply to one or two dream schools, but then apply to two or three realistic choices where you think, you know what, I mean, with my grades and with everything that I have, I think that I'm a good match, and I think that I'll be able um, to get accepted into the school. And then the safety schools where you think that where you match the upper end of the successful applicants and where you feel, you know what, the school is going to be lucky to have me. So make sure that you have this mix of universities while you're applying, and don't just apply to one type. Apply to, just as you see here, like one or two dream schools, two or three realistic choices, and one or two safety schools. I mentioned the common application earlier. The common application is basically has over 450 colleges and universities accepting the application. Um, you basically need to register, and you would fill out the general information about yourself and apply and select the universities that you want to apply to using that same application form. Um, Many universities or some universities may require supplements, and those are usually extra essays or an extra recommendation letter. Um, it depends on the university, so a lot may require supplements. And it's basically one application that you can submit to different universities. So if let's say 4 or 5 of the universities that you decided to apply to are part of the common application, then that's 4 or 5 applications less for you to fill out and send. So I would highly recommend that you go to the common application and be familiar with the application itself, and read what kind of essays they're asking for this year. So the essay is really an essential component, and a lot of the times it is the difference between acceptance and denial. When writing your essay, focus on the things that make you different. And choose a topic that helps you express your passion and your character. Be creative and be yourself. If you're not a funny person, don't try to be a comedian in your essay, because it's not going to be genuine. It's not going to be you. Um, it's the opportunity for your voice to be heard. Um, and in the essay, try to focus on things that you couldn't focus on otherwise in the application. So it's your chance to shine. Be persuasive, be concise, and clear. Don't don't send an essay with grammatical or spelling mistakes. Um, be careful of I've seen some students not writing their own essays, and that's something you want to completely avoid. It's your essay, it's your voice, it's your decision, um, and it's showing the admissions officer a part of you and who you may be and how you may um, add to their university or in the institution. So this is a very essential component, and this is actually a way to shine. So use that and check with your Education USA centers. A lot of us have workshop essays, so I would recommend that you check if there's one coming up in a center near you. So this is pretty much what your folder is going to include. You're going to have your application fee and application form. You're going to have your test scores, your transcripts, your recommendation letters, and your essay. Take a last look at your application before you send it. You need to make sure it's complete. You've got everything they've asked for. You need to proofread carefully everything. And check that your name and date of birth are correct and they're consistent. I know in many countries, like where I'm from, for example, the name in English on the passport doesn't necessarily, or this is what it used to be like. It didn't necessarily need to match your birth certificate, but make sure that the name you're writing on the application matches your name on the birth certificate, your name on your passport, and always use that exact full name. You don't want to use abbreviation or what your friends may be calling you or what you're called at home. It needs to be the official name. Mail your application before the deadline, and we would recommend that you send it via courier service. For financial aid, one of our frequently asked questions is, how do I get financial aid, and do international students get financial aid? International students are able to obtain and receive financial aid. Only the best of the admitted students receive financial aid. So you really need to have a high GPA and you need to be a high achiever. If you need financial aid, then we recommend that you apply to universities where you can be outstanding, and where you think you'll be able to receive that financial aid. Financial aid with full funding is highly competitive. And in general, you shouldn't apply to universities requesting financial aid or requesting more aid than you genuinely need. So keep that in mind. Universities usually have a lot of the universities have a separate application for financial aid. So again, it depends on the university. And if you need financial aid, this is something that you should ask the university for, and ask what kind of forms or what's the process, because again, each university has a different way. So there are different kinds of financial aid. As you see in this slide, there's merit-based, there's need-based, and there are on-campus employment options. Merit-based is just as the name says. It's basically awarded to for academic achievements and high test scores. So again, the higher your test scores, the better the options are in getting financial aid. They're also awarded for special talents such as music, art, sports, athletic abilities, and other personal characteristics. For need-based, again, it's just as the name implies. It's for people that need financial aid, that need some money to get into the university. It takes into consideration the family income and financial need, and it also will consider merit. On-campus employment, this usually helps students, especially international students, with maybe their personal expenses. So it would be up to 20 hours per week of working on campus while school is in session. And it really depends on the availability. It ranges anywhere between $1,000 to $2,000, $3,000 per year. So it's not to pay for your tuition. It's to help with your personal expenses and maybe going out or to the cinema or to a restaurant. So remember to stop by our virtual booth to talk directly with the Education USA advisors today, and follow us on social media. You'll hear about events similar to this. You'll hear about different updates, and you may register to receive weekly information about different universities. We also have an Education USA app that you can download from the Apple Store, and it's a great resource to have. I'm going to go through and check some of your questions. I hope this was helpful for you, and I may answered some of your questions. I'm just going to skim through them right now. Okay. So one of the questions was, how can I highlight my extracurricular activities in the university admission? And that's actually a very good question. So it really depends. You can use your essay to kind of back up some of, you can use your essay to back up some of your extracurricular activities that by mentioning um, some of the extracurricular activities you do that in a way that you can connect it to what the essay is about. A lot of students have certificates that they can include in the application. A lot of on the common application, you are asked if you have any extracurricular activities, and you can mention those um, in um, those fields. Okay. Can we change our major during our studying? For example, in the second year? That's a very good question, and this is something that we covered in the beginning while we said why study in the US, because it's flexible. The flexibility in the US education system is great. You can simply change majors or you can change your major or change universities very easily, or add a minor or have a double major. Um, so it is very flexible, and the answer is yes. You can just work out with your academic advisor in the International Student Office on making sure that you do it the right way through the university. So is visa accepted depending on the rank of the university? The answer is no. As the U.S. government and part of the Department of State Advising Center program, I can tell you that we do not deal with university rankings, and we believe in finding the right fit for the student. So it doesn't matter where you're going, that will not affect your visa, your visa, your student visa. And many centers have student visa information sessions, so I would encourage you to attend one of those. I believe there may be a visa session, or there's a link that I can share with you, and it's about how do I get a student visa, and the process, and it's usually pretty straightforward. What's a good GPA? So it really depends on the university. Some universities may be okay with a 2.2 GPA, others will require a minimum of 3.5, for example, or 3.6 or 3.7. So it really depends on the university. And that's why we mentioned that you would need to find a university that's a right fit for you and your abilities, how much you can offer, how much you can afford, and what your test scores are. can you explain about the new SATs that will be starting soon? I would recommend that you go to the College Board website. They have information on, and that's collegeboard.org. They have information on the new SAT. There's also going to be a session on the College Week Live, I believe, on the different tests. So I would recommend that you tune in for that session. Let me just go through a few more questions. Why are recommendation letters so important? Well, the person that's writing a recommendation letter is usually a person that knows you well, or a teacher that knows you very well, and that they can talk about your abilities and what kind of personality you have. And that would give an admissions officer um, a way to see um, who you are and how you would fit on their campus. So, what type of essays do universities ask for? So it really depends on the university. Each university will have different questions. Sometimes they are open to write about anything, write an essay about anything you may think of, or write about a person that inspired you. Sometimes they ask questions like, why are you choosing this university, or why are you choosing this major? So it really depends on the university. Who would write the recommendation letter? Usually, maybe your high school counselor and a teacher. And sometimes universities ask for two teachers to write recommendation letters in addition to your high school counselor. I would recommend that you ask someone that knows you well to write your recommendation letter, and maybe sit down and have a chat about where you're applying, why you're applying to these specific universities. We're running short on time, so I'm gonna try to see uh, maybe two more questions. How can I get recommendation letters? You will need to ask the person, like the high school counselor or your teachers, directly for those. And they would need to send them directly to the universities. Someone asked to go back to the, I think they were asking about the assemble the application folder slide. I hope this helped. I hope this is the one you were asking for. Uh, okay. So if your high schools don't have high school counselors, I would recommend that you work closely with the Education USA advisor in your country. Girl Scouts are definitely counted as extracurricular activities. I would emphasize on that. For on-campus jobs, I would recommend that you talk and connect with the International Student Office. Um, Usually universities are able um, to convert into GPAs, so they can convert whatever system your high school uses and convert it to a GPA. IELTS are widely accepted in the US, yes. So if you're more comfortable taking that as an English test, then you can do that. Okay. So universities will calculate your GPAs. Can you get college credit for doing the full IB program? That's a very good question. Um, um, in general, I would say yes, but it depends on the university. So some universities might offer college credits for the full IB programs, while others may not. You would need to contact the university directly. So I hope I answered some of your questions, and I hope that this was useful for you. Don't forget to contact Education USA if you have any questions. You can find the center near you. Um, we have one last question about the presentation and where you can find it. The College Week Live website will usually have the presentation and this webinar uploaded on their website soon. So it might be on like an on-demand button, um, and you'll be able to find it on the website. So thank you very much, and I hope this was helpful. Remember, um, check your Education USA center near you.